What's up? What's Look at this shit. Right? I'm 20 years old and I'm going fucking bald. Anyway, that's not the point of this fucking video. What is the point of this video? Well, you see, I did it. I fucking did it. Alright, so what did I do? Well, if you hear me out, you gotta hear me out on this. If you just take a peek, down there, down below where this stream, or maybe you're looking at it as a video. If you go down there into the description, it'll say that I'm playing a game. Technically that's true. I'm not playing it like where you guys can see it, but I'm playing it right here, and I'm not gonna like make you guys just watch me as I go. You know, anyway, I'm playing that game, right? It's called Blasphemous. It's my favorite game. It is unequivocally my favorite game ever. Yeah. Anyway, that's besides the point. What's the point again? I forgot. No, I'm just kidding. The title. Actually, it's probably down here somewhere. The title of the stream. That's the point of the stream, which is now probably a video. I'm bragging. Do you know why I'm bragging? Do you want to know why I'm bragging? Do you want to know why I'm bragging? I can tell you why I'm bragging. I'm bragging because I got such a cute little kitty here. Come here, baby. Yeah. No, I'm just joking. I'm bragging because I did it. I did it. Alright, now, here's the context. Blasphemous is a 2D platformer Souls-like game. It's basically like... It's a lot like Hollow Knight in that regard, you know? It's got more of a medieval feel to it, so it's a bit closer to like Dark Souls in that regard. But it's also got a ton of religious iconology and stuff like that. It's pretty involved. It's got references to history, lots of interesting stuff. But it's my favorite game. It's made by also my favorite set of game developers, I'm pretty sure. I can't think of any game developers that I like more than them. I'd say Digital Extremes, but I only know one of their games. As far as the Game Kitchen is concerned, I know both of their games, and I'm very happy with both of them. I recommend that you go and support them. The Game Kitchen. They've got 2 games, Blasphemous and The Last Door. That's another of my favorite games. It's not my favorite game. Blasphemous easily takes that title. So let's be clear on that. I like Blasphemous. I like The Last Door too. I love it. It's a great 2D horror game. Also very pixely, kind of like Blasphemous is. You should go check out both of these games, but I most recommend right now Blasphemous. The Last Door, don't get me wrong, I highly recommend that one too. Go play it. I think you can play the first chapter or the second and first chapter free online. Don't quote me on that, but that's there. Blasphemous, however, makes me very happy. It makes me very happy. Hello, Jay. I'm talking about my favorite game. Anyway, so why am I bragging, though? Well, we'll get to that. Anyway, pertinent to Blasphemous right now is the fact that they recently, not too recently, but pretty recently, released an update to the game for basically free DLC. And it changed a few core mechanics. You could upgrade what was the equivalent of health potions or Estus flasks or what have you. You couldn't do that before. You just got a selection of them throughout the game until you got like 10 by the end, and you could never improve them. You just had to deal with how much they healed you from the beginning. Then they made the game a hell of a lot easier, in my opinion, when they made it possible to upgrade all of them by sacrificing one of them, and you could do this a total of 5 times, I think. I might be highballing that. I think I don't know. There's a way of upgrading them now, and the upgrades are well worth the sacrifice of a flask. All right? Because originally, having all of the flasks and a complete full health bar meant that you effectively had 2 health bars, right? 2 of those full health bars. Now, fully upgraded with, say, 4 flasks basically means that you have 5 effective health bars. It's a huge upgrade. It's incredible. They made the game easier. You deal more damage to enemies. You're more effective. I think that they did buff some of the spells and stuff. All of that nonsense. But the reason that I don't have a problem with that, even though I beat the game at its original level of difficulty, is because they added a New Game Plus game mode. And it is a lot like the New Game Plus of a Soulsborne game. Alright? You can't upgrade your sword anymore in New Game Plus. It's already at max. You can't get new spells and stuff. Well, with some exceptions. You get to carry over all your spells and your rosary beads and your relics from your first playthrough into your New Game Plus. But the enemies are obviously of higher difficulty. More health, more damage, more or less. Some of the enemies, I think, are actually lower health than they were in the beginning, and that's just to create a more balanced experience. But that's besides the point. The point is that you're basically at one level all the way through. But that's not all. In New Game Plus, otherwise known as True Torment Mode, you can pick to have a penance of some sort. Now, you can also pick, I don't want a penance. Or if you pick a penance and you decide, I don't like it, you can say, okay, never mind, no penance for me. What you can't do is say, no penance, and then come back later and be like, you know what, I want a penance after all. And you only get to choose once per run. And if you pick a penance, of course, anytime you can cancel it, but you can't turn it back on once you've canceled it. I made that mistake the first time I tried. It was not great. Cannot advise. If you pick a penance, you really ought to stick with it until you're absolutely certain that you cannot make it through the game without it. Anyway, let's talk about these penances. So, the penances are as follows. Unwavering faith, sorrowful heart, I think it is, something like that, bleeding heart, and then true guilt. Now, why would you ever choose these penances? What do they even do? Well, unwavering faith. Your sword does half as much damage. But that little SP bar, the thing that you use to cast your spells, constantly refills as long as you don't take damage. When you take damage, it lowers a bit. Kind of like your health already does, to sort of counteract the constantly filling nature of it. Thus, the idea is that you can just constantly cast spells instead of using your sword. It's an interesting little trade-off. It's quite nice. I haven't done it yet, but I think it's going to be my favorite as far as play style. Next, and I'm told that this one may in fact actually be easier than the normal way of playing. The Bleeding Heart, or whatever it's called. I didn't pay too much attention to it because I wasn't very interested in it, but if it is as easy as I'm told, I might go with that one next, just to save the best for last, you feel? Instead of having a single full health bar that bits and pieces of are destroyed when you take damage and then refilled by your bioflasks, instead you have a set number of hits that you can take basically. Like, you have these little jars of health, and each hit you take breaks a jar. But when you use a bioflask, instead of refilling a set amount, so to speak, I'm sure that it's still a set amount, but it refills multiple of those jars over time. If you get hit while it's still doing that, not so good, not so good. I digress. Finally, we come to the true guilt. And this is what I consider, I'm told, look, when I think about it, there's no logical way that it is easier than the other two. It has to be the hardest. Why? Why is it the hardest? Come on. True guilt. Your bioflasks, which are your health refills, don't fill your health anymore. Whatsoever. At all. They just don't. What you have as a health bar is pretty much what you get, with some exceptions, because there's a spell that when you hit enemies you get health back, or there's a sword core that when you kill enemies you get a bit of health back, so on and so forth. Point is, your main health income is completely replaced with instead a fervor income. That's the spell casting juice, basically. So now you have fervor flasks instead of health flasks. So you're pretty good for casting spells, kind of like that other one, but you have to use a flask to refill instead of it naturally refilling on its own. And again, you can't heal. On top of this, and this is like the main feature of True Guilt, instead of when you die leaving just a little symbol for your guilt, which, by the way, when you die in Blasphemous, instead of being like a Souls game where you lose all of the souls or currency that you've gathered, Blasphemous, generally, it just says, nah, leave those. You'll just get them at a slower rate until you pick up the symbol where you died. It'll also restrict a bit of that fervor bar, that spellcasting bar, and be like, go pick up the symbol, we'll let you have that back. And it gets worse the more you die. So if you die once, one symbol. Die again, another symbol. Even less souls from killing. Even less fervor to use. True Guilt, however, goes right to the max of that, right from the beginning. As much limitation. The first time you die, you might as well have died as many times as you can to place symbols. There is a limit to how many symbols can be placed. True Guilt just says, place all of them at once. Okay? On top of that, it takes the currency like a normal Souls game would. For someone who's used to the way that Blasphemous plays, that's agonizing. That's very painful. You don't like that. Because the way that you get rid of those symbols, if they're in a real difficult place to reach, you pay to have them removed. You can't pay to remove them if you don't have the stuff that you pay with. Now, mind you, it is possible. It doesn't, like, say you don't get any currency from killing enemies anymore. You get a little bit. You get just a bit. You get a bit. But you don't get them at a reasonable rate at all. No, you're better off going to your symbol and picking it up, because chances are you're going to die along the way to getting enough to pay off that symbol, as opposed to getting back there and then dying on the way back, which will be easier to get. It's painful. Okay, there's that. Let's talk about some of the other stuff in True Torment mode. I will say, why would you ever choose to take one of those penitences if you can just say, nah, let me play it normally? Maybe you'd want to do the Bleeding Heart one because apparently it's easier, or the Unwavering Faith one because you're always like, yeah, wait, I want to see what it'd be like to be more of a spellcaster than a sword swinger. Why would you ever do True Guilt? Well, Each of the penitences has a distinct set of rewards for if you beat the game. If you beat True Torment mode while you have a penitence active. I can't recall what the actual rewards are for the Faith one. I know you get a skin, like a character skin for each of the three. There's that. And then you get some sort of rosary bead for each. I don't remember what it is for the Faith one. I know that for the heart one, you get something which basically turns normal mode into that, where instead of healing a set amount, bile flasks will now heal over time as long as you don't get damaged. It's brilliant. It's genius. We love it. True Guilt. What does True Guilt do? It turns your bile flasks into fervor flasks. It basically just turns all modes into True Guilt, except for the fact that you don't like lose all of your currency and stuff. You know, your deaths are normal, but your health is not. And that's a rosary bead. Normally that kind of thing would be in a sword heart, but a sword core. Instead, it's a rosary bead. I mean, shit. All right. We'll live with it. So those are the rewards. There's little rosary beads and character skins. Considering how, like, rewarding the character skins are anyway, it makes sense. I mean, you get one skin for beating the game, another skin for beating the game the good way, one skin for collecting all of a certain type of collectible, and one for donating way more of that currency than you need to a donation box. And then there's some other very nice skins. If you were a Patreon supporter or something like that, early access supporter, something. There's a skin for that. And then if you're on PC, they don't have it on Switch yet, but if you're on PC, there's and maybe on other consoles too, but not on Switch yet. There's a skin called Alloy of Sin that's just basically a DLC skin. That's pretty much the only paid DLC for the game. The rest of the other stuff is like the game's soundtrack, an introductory comic, art for the game, stuff like that. None of it's like actual in-game stuff except for the skin, and that's just, bragging rights. That doesn't actually help you or get you new content in any way. It's just, oh, I look different. I have that skin for PC, but on Switch, what did I do to make up for that on Switch? I mean, that's actually my favorite looking skin on PC. So what did I do to make up for it on Switch? Well, I looked at those 3 penances, and I looked at the one for Faith, and I'm like, well, I like the sound of this one, but the skin reward isn't all that interesting. It looks, kind of a lot like a mixture between a couple of the other ones. Whatever. Looked at the Bleeding Heart one. I was like, oh, that one's kind of interesting. And okay, weird. And then I looked at the one for True Guilt, and I said, that looks real good. I like that. That looks real good. Anyway, so I decided that that's what I was gonna do. I said, okay, I want to go ahead and just do the hardest one of these first to get the coolest looking skin. Duh. It's 10:35 p.m. Anyway, there's some other stuff in True Torment mode. Yeah? Yeah, she says yeah. There's some other stuff in True Torment mode. There's not just, whatever, you can do a penitence now. Beat the game, the same game, but with the penitence and the more difficult enemies and so on. There's also the Amanecidas of the miracles. Of the miracle. This is an optional string of bosses that can only be accessed in New Game Plus. You can't get them in the regular version of the game. You have to go into New Game Plus, True Torment. To access these bosses. And they aren't pushovers. Now, mind you, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not often concerned, but as far as I'm concerned, these aren't the most difficult bosses in the game. They're definitely more difficult than about 95% of everything else in the game. They're pretty tough. And of course, playing on True Guild, it doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. The glasses, they do nothing. But they're fun. They are very fun to fight. And when I got to the last one, that's right, I got to the last one on True Guild, I said, wow, this is incredible. I love this. And of course, in the New Game Plus game mode, there are a couple things here and there that are new. There's some new spells, new sword core, new rosary bead or two, I think. But what's not new is the final boss. Now, I don't mean to brag. Oh, wait. Forgot the title of the video. I'm not the kind of guy who tries to challenge himself by playing Ultra Nightmare on Doom, you know? I'm not a completionist, I'm not any percentist, I'm not a speedrunner, I'm not a self-challenger. I don't go out of my way to make my life difficult. But Blasphemous. Let me first talk about what it was like before the update. More or less, most of the bosses were very interesting, first of all. Very good designs, very unique. There was never a single boss that I went to and I was like, oh, this kind of feels a lot like this other thing. I will say that the new DLC bosses, you know, the Amanecidas of the Miracle, they're a bit similar to another one, but only slightly. They've got like some similar moves, but as a whole, they're very different. But there's huge creativity in the bosses in the game. And for the most part, they don't bother me too much. Now, I'm not the kind of guy who likes a bullet hell. I've tried Enter the Gungeon, which isn't very bullet helly as compared to other bullet hell games. But it's, to me, I don't like it much. I played Binding of Isaac and I liked that. I don't much like Enter the Gungeon. And I can tell you for certain it's because there's more projectiles. Which makes sense. I'm not one for bullet hells. There's one boss in the game that's kind of a bullet hell. Not too much, mind you. But once you get to like the second stage of the fight, you're gonna be fucked. You know, shit's gonna be coming at you from all angles, and you're basically just in a rush to get it done. You're like, no more. Let me out. I'm done. Bye-bye. Please, I gotta go, bro. I gotta go. No. Please, no. And, you know, throughout the game, it does pressure you pretty well. Here and there, there's a couple ways that you can pretty much abuse the systems that the game puts in place. Like, now, the game does a pretty good job with pacing and receiving items. Now, this is in the case of health, maximum health increases and maximum fervor increases and bioflasks, you know, the stuff that heals you, the amount of health that you can have overall, and the amount of spell casting ability that you have overall. The things that kind of fuck with the system are the spells, the prayers as they're called. There's one boss that 2 specific prayers can completely trivialize. Now, normally I take trivialize pretty lightly. I say, it trivializes it. Like, I mean, you still gotta try a little. There's this one boss you don't even gotta try as long as you have these spells. You just get over there, cast the spell. Hang out over here, cast a spell. The only thing you gotta do is make sure that this one little instant kill doesn't hit you. Oh, did I forget to mention that it has an instant kill? That's real weird, if you ask me. It's very strange and out of place, but it's there. It's very well telegraphed. It's not like you're gonna be like, What? What the fuck? I didn't see that coming. That's not fair. No, it warns the shit out of it. So there's no reason that you're going to die to it more than the first time when you realize, oh, that's an instant kill. I'm going to avoid that from now on. It's very easy to avoid. So you can completely decimate that guy by the time you get to him. And throughout the game, there's also sword upgrades because, of course, unless you're in true torment mode, you want to get stronger to sort of match the increasing level of enemies and match the fact that you have more health and more spellcasting ability. And for the most part, these are a pretty big deal. There's a total of, I think, 7 of these sword upgrades throughout the game. One of them is very difficult to get to, and to be frank, for the most part, is pretty much optional. For the most part. Because the final boss of the game, I wish to stress, is the hardest boss in the game. And the game expects you to complete everything before you get to him. And I mean everything. Everything. Back in the old version of the game, even before you get the improved bioflasks, so you effectively only have 2 HP bars, 2 full HP bars, he whooped my ass. I beat him twice that way, but he whooped my ass. I had all of the maximum health improvements, all of the fervor improvements, I had all of the bioflasks, and I had all of the sword upgrades, and he still kicked my ass. He's the only boss in the game that getting everything that you had access to didn't make any easier. He's a tough motherfucker, or at least he was, until the bioflasks got improved, and then I beat him first try on the regular new game. And obviously, True Torment, it's a little bit different. But we're not there yet. He very nearly roadblocked me back when I played it way back then. I spent at least 2.5 hours just trying to beat him. And I did. I beat him the same exact night that I first came up against him. And I'd ticked all my boxes, mind you. I'd gotten everything I could think to get, including the stuff that chose which ending I was getting. So I unlocked 2 skins by beating the game. I was very happy with that. True Torment. So again, this new update made him a lot easier. The game is much more passable for the average person in that regard. Again, once you get to True Torment, you can probably get along just fine, because you've still got those bioflasks. Unless, of course, you do what I did, and you go with True Guilt. Because you don't get any bioflasks whatsoever. So not only are you fighting a souped up version of him, but you're also fighting it without any healing capability. So instead of 2 HP bars, 1. And, it's a fun time. But I'm here to tell you that I did it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've finally reached the bragging portion. I fucking did it. I beat the game on True Guilt in True Torment mode. And I have proof. I have proof of that magnificent fact. Here is the penitent one. I don't know if that's going to focus. But that little color scheme there, with the purple cloth and the dark gray armor and the yellow sword, is indicative. That's the skin that I won for beating True Torment on True Guilt. And just to hammer it home, I also have the Rosary Bead reward for doing that, which is Reliquary of the Sorrowful Heart. It retains in its bosom the mark of a fulfilled penance. It burdens the heart of its bearer with true guilt, turning the bile flasks into receptacles of pure liquid fervor. Just in case I want a little sample of what I went through again on one of my other playthroughs. Oh, that's right. I'm going to ascend again. I'm going to do True Torment again. Now, before we lose our collective minds, I'm pretty sure that in Blasphemous, ascending an already ascended file, a file that's already gone into True Torment, taking that into True Torment again, I'm 97% sure that that's not going to raise the difficulty again. It's going to be the same True Torment difficulty. The only difference is you won't have the same penance. You'll have all the stuff carried over, including the stuff you won from your penance. But you won't have that penance anymore, and you can pick a new one. So that eventually you can beat every single thing on one file. Without flaw. Funnily enough, now, I did all this. I got... Now, mind you, I was very careful about the way that I did this. I went and I got everything in my first playthrough. Before I even went to True Torment, I got every single item, every single collectible, every single miracle, or every single prayer, every single rosary bead, every single anything that was available first playthrough. Obviously, there are some things that aren't available second playthrough. That's just the way that it is. What can you do? But the thing is, once I got to my second playthrough, and I, got some of the stuff that you earn from beating your second playthrough, right? Now that I've beaten it all the way through True Torment, I've got 107% completion. I don't know what this means. I think, and I may be wrong, that the measure of completion only covers a certain degree of things. And mind you, this certain degree of things is not quite easy to fully comprehend. I think that only measures every single iteration of an item. Now, when I went through the game, here's the thing. The way that it deals with you already having everything is that it replaces, when it reads your inventory and it says, okay, here's what you have. Everything that you have gets turned into Tears of Atonement. That's the currency. Anything you don't have is still there. Some of the items are combinations of other items, meaning that I have, in technicality, the items, but their previous uncombined versions are still out there, so I can still pick them up. So I've got 100%, I've got all the items, and then I've got some of their parts again. So I've got 100%, and then another 7% in items that are repetitious, or you get the idea. But that's not the point of this. The point of this is I beat Blasphemous at its hardest. And mind you, I didn't do no sissy ass beating of this game. I whooped it. I whooped that sucker. I beat every single boss, optional or not. I whooped this game on true guilt, its hardest form. I did it. Me, I did it. You didn't do it, I did it. I did it. I did it. I did it. I beat this sucker senseless within an inch of its life. I beat it. I beat Blasphemous. This is, I think, the first game that I willfully and fully intentionally went after 100% completion for. I don't think that there's another game that I would so willingly dedicate so much to. I love this game. I love the play style. I love the mechanics. I love the art style. I love the story, the lore, all of it. I love this fucking game. And I love the music too. I may get copyright claimed for this, but god damn it, it is worth it. My favorite song, I think, there's two songs that I really like, and this is one of them. Anyway, regardless, I love this game. I adore this game. I'm probably going to replay it several times, not just for the different penances. There's probably going to come a point where I beat it on True Guilt again. Just for the fun of it. Just because. It's entirely feasible. I don't know. It's gonna be a wild ride because I don't think that I'm letting go of this game anytime soon. I talked about this before, not here, but on my Twitch, which I still don't really make use of. This is my favorite game, and it will continue to be my favorite game, quite possibly for eternity. I've played Dark Souls 3, I've played Warframe. God, I've played I played it on this channel, my old favorite game from childhood, Bionicle Heroes. I've played Ruiner. I've played all 3 Dead Spaces. I've played Factorio, Risk of Rain 1 and 2. Several Assassin's Creed games. I've played all 3 of the Infinity Blade games. All 3 of the NOVA mobile games. I've played For Honor. I've played Rainbow Six Siege. I've treated myself to numerous games across all formats and intentions and styles. And without doubt in my heart, I can say that Blasphemous is my favorite among them. Period. There may be games in the future that I spend more time on. I've already spent more time on other games than this. I've spent actually time avoiding the game. I spent time avoiding Blasphemous, not because like I didn't want to play it or because I was getting burnt out, but because that I knew if I started playing it again, I knew what would happen, and it did happen when I started playing it again. I played it more or less non-stop for the following 4 days until I reached the end twice in a row. I love this game. I will play it on the channel. I will. I have the PC version. I will play it on the channel, and there's a very good chance that I'll beat it on True Guilt on the channel. But that may have to wait a while. Because before I beat it on PC, anything like that, I'm planning on doing everything on Switch, on playing through all the different torments and penances and so forth on Switch before I do it again on PC. Now, mind you, I have not beaten the game on PC. I haven't even tried to do it with keyboard and mouse. I've only ever played the game with controller because that's how I learned it, and I know that trying to do it another way may confuse the shit out of me. But that's besides the point. The point is that I did it. Now, I've spent the past 20 minutes before I made this stream just, looking up some stuff about the game. Not about the lore of the game, because I've got a pretty good grasp on that. And I've got plenty of items to teach me what I don't already know. But I looked up stuff about the other torments, the other penances. I wanted to know what the other rosary beads did. And I found out that the one for the bleeding heart basically turns your bioflasks into nuclear powerhouses. And then I found out, well, I didn't actually find out what the faith one does, because it looks like nobody else had much interest in that one, which is weird. I see a lot of people who did the bleeding heart one. I see a couple people saying, well, I did the bleeding heart one and now I'm doing True Guilt, but I don't see many people talking about the unwavering faith, which is interesting. But what I found along the way, True Guilt is kicking people's asses. It is. And I won't say that I didn't die a lot along the way. Oh, yeah. But only in places that I don't feel shame saying that I died a lot too. I actually beat the final boss in about 5 attempts, 6 maybe. He spoke a lot, so it took a lot longer than any other boss attempts would take. There was one Amenacida that really kicked my ass for a while. But other than that, it wasn't that much more difficult, in my opinion, than my first time playing the game. And that's probably because I've been playing the game long enough to get the proper skills to be successful in it. But you know what? I did it. I did it. I beat the game on True Guilt. I have had Blasphemous at its hardest to date. Because if it turns out that I'm wrong and True Guilt isn't the hardest, the way that it was before is the hardest, I still beat it there, motherfuckers. I did it. No one can come for my title. I did it. I did it. And I've got this lovely skin to show for it. It really is my favorite skin in the game now. Just because I worked my ass off for it. I will say, Perpetua, yeah, I didn't beat her, technically. I mean, I don't really feel bad about that. I don't. Because she is one of the few enemies in the game that doesn't really let you beat her. You're really not supposed to. You can, and it will reward you for doing so. And once you've become an old hand at the game, as long as you have bioflasks, you can beat her, no problem. But when you don't have bioflasks and you have to make it all the way to her through multiple enemies, you're already on a bit lower health. Now maybe you're pretty good at dealing with the other enemies, so it's only like 1/10 of your health missing. But the problem is you're never going to get that 10th back. Unless, of course, you use that spell and you land the hits on her to get health back. Problem is, getting hits on her is few and far between. You can't do combos against her because she flies. Anyway, my point is, as if that wasn't enough, you have to beat her the first time you encounter her, because if you don't beat her, she never comes back in that playthrough. Now, I beat her first time through, and then the second time that I played the game, way back when, I beat her. But the first time that I ever played the game, I didn't beat her because I didn't realize that, like, I fought her and I was like, oh, there's a boss here, okay, I don't know why there's not a health bar, but, I'm just gonna wait, I'm gonna come back, I'll let her kill me, I'll come back, I come back and she's gone. So, there was that. Being her on True Guilt, I'm pretty sure I had her on the ropes, but I was out of health, so I will admit that. That being said, I don't hold that against myself. Have you at your hardest gone? It doesn't sound very difficult. Get this game gone. Wait, you have this game. Play it. Play this game gone. Play Blasphemous. Play Blasphemous. And come back to me once you've beaten the final boss. But don't worry about that too much, because the game's a lot easier now since the update. Come back to me when you beat the final boss on True Guilt. Because I already have. Yeah. I'm resting on my laurels. I've done it. Legitimately, though, I'm pretty happy. I've done something. I have achieved the goal that I set out for myself. You'll play Blasphemous when you're ready to cry. Okay. Why? What makes you say that? Don't tell me. Don't tell me the Warden of the Silent Sorrow made you cry. Because it only gets harder from there, buckaroo. Warden of the Silent Sorrow, first boss of the game, is such a pissant. Now, mind you, you start out with real low health, so it doesn't take many hits to put you down. That's fair enough. But he's such a non-difficult, he's such a non-obstacle that later in the game they literally just throw 2 of them at you when you're half blind, and they expect you to beat them. Not next to like a save point or anything either. Like, you have to get through some pretty tough enemies just to get to that point, to get past them. And the game expects you to be able to. It's just like, yeah, that boss. Boss. More like slightly tougher than average enemy, bro. Boss, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Now, true guilt. Never mind. No. In all honesty, I'd say that the beginning and the end of the game are the hardest points. In between, it's hard to say because you can get access to stuff to make it easier. That's the whole idea. But at the beginning, you don't have access to any of those items. You don't have any of those items. You can't really help yourself. You just have to get past him. He's the starting skill point. At the end, you're expected to have all of those items. So it doesn't have any more cushioning to give you. Anyway, if you guys are on right now, I'll probably hop in the Discord and talk to you. For those of you watching this as a video, sucks to be you. But yeah, buy Blasphemous, play Blasphemous. It's real fun. Unless, of course, you don't like, Souls-like games, or if you've played Hollow Knight and you didn't like that, then it's pretty easy to cross this one off and say, that's not for me. But I do recommend that you go and support the Game Kitchen, because they've got some pretty good fucking business morals. They released this update for the game absolutely free. Free of charge. They didn't have to. They could have released some of it, like as a quality of life update. Alright, well, the basic changes to the game, the bio flasks, the map updates, all that. Sure, whatever. They could have put, not necessarily New Game Plus, but the penitences. Maybe not the penitences, but the Amenicitas. Those could have definitely been paid DLC. And they were just included as a general update to the game. Cat wants to get in my room. So there you go. Anyway, I'm all done here. I've made my bragging. I've beaten Blasphemous on true torment with true guilt. Cat really wants to get into my room. Look at this sucker, though. My camera doesn't autofocus. Hold on, let me see if I can focus it right now. And while I'm at it, I'm going to let my cat in my room. Come on. There you go. Focus. Maybe? And that just zooms in. Well, that's no good. Well, anyway. You can see it. The yellow sword, the dark armor. It's visible. You get the idea. I did it. I did it. Not you. Me. I did it. Okay. That's all for now.